And again, they always use these things to get agenda through because everybody is looking at one direction. They're using it as a distraction. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because if you say that, a lot of prophecy people get annoyed or irritated that you would say that, because as prophecy people, we're supposed to be watching Israel. Correct. We are. Israel's God's timepiece. They are the whole point of Daniel's 70th week. We understand that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the elites and those of the world aren't going to use it as a distraction to further other parts of the end times, the last days, at the same time. So it's a double whammy on that. So it's important to understand that. So they've used it as a distraction. I've talked about some of the stuff before, but some of it I may not have. But since this thing began, since it started, we've got the EU who signed into play the biometric passports for travel that begins in 2025. That's not something that they're planning on doing. That's not upcoming legislation that they're going to vote on. That's not something that they're working on. That's something that was signed into play and will go active spring of 2025. You will need a biometric passport in order to travel to the EU. That will be required. That was signed in when this thing started. The kill switch car bill is still active. There's a couple people who tried to stop that in the United States, where all new cars after 2026 will need a kill switch in there where the authorities can just shut your car down whenever they feel like it. A couple people tried to get that to stop. That was denied. So that car bill is still active and will go in 2026. We've got the UN, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the Rockefeller Foundation, who started the 50 and 5 campaign. That officially launched. It is now active now. That also launched during this period of time as well. You had this health meeting that we just talked about that took place with the Council on Foreign Relations. How many people heard of that before tonight? How many people have heard of that before tonight? Probably not many of you. That's something that we would have picked up on a lot sooner if we weren't necessarily distracted. Now, again, I'm not saying it as in a bad way, because I know somebody's going to take this and twist it the way that I'm not trying to make it. But the fact is yes, we are to be watching Israel, but at the same time, it is a distraction at the same time. And we've been distracted from all these things, which we all would have known was going on and happening if this thing in Israel wasn't taking place. Now, does that mean that they're more important? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is all these things are key pieces to what we see happening in these end times, as well as what's going on in Israel. We are to focus and watch Israel, but we still need to be prophecy watchers and watch the other stuff that's going on. And another aspect that they are using this crisis for is to bring down online and social media agenda in the name of anti-Semitism. They are using anti-Semitism to bring about more last days, more possible beast system things when it comes to censorship, when it comes to being anonymous online, and some other stuff. Now, what am I talking about? Let's first hear from New York Governor Kathy Hochul. Here we go.
Also, we're very focused on the data we're collecting from surveillance efforts, what's being said on social media platforms. And we have launched an effort to be able to counter some of the negativity and reach out to people when we see hate speech being spoken about on online platforms. Our media analysis, our social media analysis unit, has ramped up its monitoring of sites to catch incitement to violence, direct threats to others. And all this is in response to our desire, our strong commitment to ensure that not only do New Yorkers be safe, but they also feel safe. Because personal security is about everything for them. As I said, no one walking down the street or in a subway should feel they have to hide any indications of what their religious beliefs are. We expect to see people celebrating their lives, walking about freely, and that is no longer the case because people are living in fear. They have a right to do whatever they want here in the state of New York.
I think it's just a requirement. If you're part of the elite group, you take a class on being the most inept and dull speakers in history, I swear. But still, that doesn't take away from the fact of what she was saying. Let's see. She is using anti-Semitism to bring in a system where they are going to monitor and even remove people from online social media. They're going to use it to possibly go in and arrest people and do these types of things. Now, the goal isn't to defend Jewish people. The goal isn't to attack anybody who's pro-Arab in any type of way. No, the goal is to bring in more censorship. So you take it from that angle. It has nothing to do with what they're talking about or the subject that they're discussing. It has to do with what it will lead to. It has to do with more data collection, more watching people online, shutting people down, arresting people, hate speech, and we don't like what you say here, we're going to do this, and we don't like what you say here, we're going to do this. This has to do with more bringing down more control on top of things. And if that's not enough, we got this from Nikki Haley. If you guys don't remember, she's trying to run for president. Good luck with that. But she's trying to run for president, but she also brings in another perspective of what they're trying to do. And I've talked about this in the past. They're trying different angles of trying to make this happen. But we'll talk about it here. Just check this out.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
And they know their pastor and their family member is going to see it. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country.
Okay, so here's the angle that she's taking it. If you want to be online, you will need to be verified with your name. What is that? It's digital ID. To even use the internet, they want you to have to attach your identity to it. That's what she's trying to do. And there's been multiple people that have said the same thing. They're just introducing it in certain ways. I talked about how there was that wave of bills that under the name of protecting kids from pornography online, they were going to make it where you had to show your ID to get to certain type of websites or even to log on to social media at all. And it's not just, you know, the left, like everybody wants to say that. These are people like, I know a lot of prophecy guys and a lot of conservatives like Josh Hawley. He was one of these people who was trying to bring this in. He was trying to further the digital ID agenda. And so they're trying to bring this in the name of anti-Semitism. Again, they're going to take any crisis they can to try and get things through, to get their agenda through. They are using it to try and bring this about, to verify. Even Elon Musk has done this with Twitter. If you want to get paid, if you want to get verified, you want to do these things, you have to send them not only your ID, but your bank account information as well. What is that going to be used for? Think about it. So this is what they're trying to use the crisis for, all in the name of anti-Semitism, but they're trying to bring in more of the censorship, more of the control, and even digital ID stuff, all in the name of protecting from anti-Semitism. So they want people to not have that anonymous stuff. I mean, we've talked about the Restrict Act, which that's another thing that's been forgotten about. But, you know, the thing that was supposed to be anti-TikTok, which doesn't even mention TikTok in the bill, that has to do with restricting us. This is what they're trying to accomplish even further with that. They will use anything to further their agenda. You cannot trust these people.